5-minute mom. See if I can actually handle 5 minutes on this. I don't know. Totally up in the air. So PBS Kids. Oh, PBS Kids. I remember watching PBS Kids when I was a kid, but it wasn't called PBS Kids. It was I think it was Public Broadcasting Corporation back then. I don't know. Anyway, basically, I watched Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. 2 great shows. And I loved it. This is when I was like 4 years old, probably 5 years old, maybe. I don't know. Just remember watching it as a kid, even when I'd be like homesick from school, laying on the couch watching Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. So anyway, and then again, about 8 years ago, when I watched it with my own toddler and noticed that the programming had changed considerably, it was for a much younger age. So I watched hours and hours of Curious George with my 2.5-year-old. And what I loved about Curious George is all the episodes were basically the same. I think they went through like 8-10 seasons, and you would just go through all the episodes, and you always knew you would get back around to the episodes that you loved, like Water for Ducks. One of my favorite Curious George episodes. Or the No Noggin Halloween episode, which I find hilarious. So anyway, PBS Kids has those, they have the classics that I've really always loved. So Curious George, Arthur, and what was the other one I was thinking of? Those 2 for sure. And then I know it's not a classic, but it kind of is, because it's actually, they aired it on public broadcasting like 30 years ago. Wildcrats. It had a different title. You can Google that. It's pretty cool. So anyway, or search here on YouTube for like the Wildcrats from like the 80s, I think. Anyway. So anyway, here's the thing with PBS Kids. I've got sad news. So Arthur, it's just Arthur's, the new episode. So they used to cycle through the episodes. Like what I said with Curious George. They had their seasons of Arthur. They would cycle through the episodes. I really liked the content that was on there. It was great. Well, then, a while back, somebody kind of clued me in through Facebook, tagged me in something, said Arthur's teacher, Mr. Ratcliffe, maybe, I forget his name. He's going to get married. It's going to be a gay marriage. They're doing this. And, it's good to have a heads up as a parent that this is happening, because if you have decided as a parent that you don't want your 3 or 4-year-old or 5-year-old watching that episode, or even 7 or 8 or 9 or 10-year-old watching that episode, maybe you want to control the narrative of what you're talking to them about with gay marriage and things like that. So I thought, well, that's a good, it's a good heads up to know about that. So an episode that happened after that, and this brings me to what's happening right now with Arthur and PBS Kids, an episode that happened maybe the next one or a couple episodes after the gay marriage episode on Arthur was the episode where some of the school children go over to Mr. Ratcliffe's house to do some sort of project or work on something with him. Now, here's my problem. I've done the diocesan safety training, the CMSE, safe environment training, and things like that. Everybody knows teachers don't have kids over at their house if they're the only adult that's there, right? So whatever. It's a cartoon. They're not really kids. They're animals. You say what you want about it. I don't really care. But it's kind of a red flag. I'm like, this isn't right. Like, for any teacher to do that. Like, why are they making a show about this? Didn't think too much about it. Let it go. Fast forward to today, where PBS is like, agenda. It's agenda. I don't want to get into it. If you watch it with your kids and you like it, that's great. But when you start promoting Black Lives Matter in Arthur, then I start to say, no, actually I don't start. I just finish it. I just say, no, we're not going to do this anymore. So I'm going to link in the description one of my favorite commenters, Anthony Brian Logan, ABL. And he goes into it in a little bit longer, a little bit more in depth. I like his style, so whatever. I feel like he's better at explaining it than I do. But basically, the questions this episode raised for me are, number one, why is any child watching video of what happened to George Floyd? Completely inappropriate, and completely inappropriate to put that in a children's show to where it's going to put that thought in a kid's head, hey, I want to go try and find this video or see this video. Okay? Wrong. I don't even think most adults should be watching the video of George Floyd's death. Honestly, I don't. You know who should be watching it? The people investigating, right? Should be watching it. The police forces that are out there should be watching that, right? But I don't think having public video of a murder online, I find that really disturbing. And like I said in one of my other videos, whether you believe it has an effect on you or not, watching something like that, your brain taking that in, it certainly does trigger responses in us. Okay, so I think we need to leave it for those investigating and for the police force. That's just me. I certainly don't think children should be watching it at all. Okay, so my other issue, major issue with this episode is that where are their parents? They watch the video, and instead of going immediately to their parents and saying, hey, I think maybe I watched something I shouldn't have, they say, oh, let's call so-and-so. Let's call this other lady in our community, and let's talk to her about it. And then she starts talking to them about racism and activism and different things. Maybe you love it, maybe you don't. I don't appreciate it, and I think it's very age inappropriate. So that's my 2 cents or 20 cents or, $5, whatever you want to say. I'm 7-min mom today. So I'm going to wrap it up. In the link, check out the link in the description box. You can watch the whole thing. You get ABL's take on it. Follow him if you like. I like him. I like his take on things that happen. So it's a different view of what you're going to see from mainstream, but I feel like he presents common sense, a common sense view of things, and so I follow what he says. All right, that's it. God bless you. Good measure, packed down and flowing over.